we pay out every Thursday, so it's a weekly payment. Thursday is like strategic day if you need money for the weekend or something like that.
I've just always got the fondest memories. And whenever I speak to anybody, like we always just say, how good was it getting paid on a Thursday? Bring back bi-weekly Thursday paydays if you have any.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Welcome to Work is Weird Now. Today we have Paul Vezelis, who is the CEO of Traxlo. Traxlo is a platform connecting gig workers to retail businesses. And we wanted to speak to Paul today because Traxlo reflects, we think, a wider movement in parts of the economy towards pay for outcomes rather than pay for hours worked. So welcome, Paul. Thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So our core question today is, what is the future of pay? As I said, there's lots of different things happening with pay right now, and it's obviously being challenged in the context of some of the wider trends in work that we're seeing. So we're really interested in exploring how pay is changing as work becomes more fragmented, flexible, and outcome-based. We also want to look at how people are increasingly combining multiple income streams, which is obviously affecting how people are paid. And then we will touch on how organizations are rethinking how they access labor rather than employing it directly full-time, as it would be a conventional model. So, Paul, why don't you start by telling us what is the future of pay in your mind?
Yeah, so in my mind, it is tied to flexibility. It is tied to outcome, transparency, and pay per outcome. And I treat it as a paper task, because l- labor and overall the effort should be rewarded very fairly. And in that case, if you can measure what needs to be happening, what needs to be done, and that happens, the pay should be transparent and equal to all the parties all the time going into the future. So that's how we see it.
Great. And so how is Traxlo responding to that challenge?
So the core of Traxlo is literally everything is paper task. So whatever we do, whatever clients have the needs, we flip the hourly work into tasks, and then we set the specific payment for each task. And from that moment on, all incentives align. You can be fast, you can be slow, you'll get the same amount of money for the same amount of effort. The circumstances of people are different. Some are young and energetic, some have more time, and we just prefer to be a bit slower. And that's fine, because the effort put into performing the task is the same.
Okay. And you're specifically looking at the retail industry, right?
The core of our industry is grocery retail. That's one. Overall, then, yes, a bit broader retail, and also logistics and warehouses. We do too.
Okay. And why are those industries specifically ripe for this kind of disruption in terms of how people are employed?
Mm, Grocery retail is probably in a unique position because there are many hundreds and thousands of the stores in across the cities, in the neighborhoods. Everyone has their closest grocery store next to their home, and these stores, they have absolutely repeatable needs of labor, and it doesn't change. It increases with the seasonality, Easter, Christmas, etc. And the stores exist, goods are coming to the stores, someone needs to work with these goods. And in that case, stores are doing the best they can to hire full-time staff in that particular geographic location. But there are gaps. Some positions are not filled, some positions are not filled quickly enough, and that's where the community, the local people who would like to change their time to some degree of income, they are able to do some tasks in the same location. So it's basically repeatability, geographic proximity to the people who live around, and just the match that it's continuous. Like it will be the same need to put the same soft drink to the shelf like this year and 10 years into the future.
Yeah, because consumer behaviour has just changed, right? Completely in the way in which we purchase. Like I think back to, I was thinking now, what do we do before Deliveroo, right? It's happened so many times. I've got young kids, and I'm like, oh my god, there's no milk, and we've just run out of milk. The kids need milk, and I can have it delivered to the house in 10 minutes. It's like no problem. And everyone I speak to, that is almost now it's part of our culture. So that whole consumer, we don't wait for anything, right? Which then creates more demand and need for this in all of those local grocery stores. Smaller stores are trying to compete with the bigger chains, etc. So that demand for work or needing that task of work is so there. Like
Absolutely.
what data are you seeing around that about how this is, what type of people is this then appealing to, and how is that impacting their lives?
Yeah, so category of people, probably majority of our platform users are women aged between 35 and 55-year-old. So at least half of the population of the platform is like that. Usually it's a mother, usually they leave kid at the kindergarten or school and go around the neighborhood of 2-3 stores, regardless of different brands of the stores. So this is majority. And then the second category, the second biggest one is probably younger people. Students, but not only. And then they tend to have this new outlook to how they frame their kind of daily life around flexibility and working maybe through different platforms at the same day even. Especially we see this in capital cities of the countries where we operate, that there are a variety of platforms like food delivery, taxi driving, and us work at the grocery stores. And the same person is able to do 3 different kind of jobs, tasks throughout the day. And they motivate that we do have specific schedules. Like in the morning, we earn a little bit more as maybe taxi driver, and lunchtime delivery is profitable. But in the evening, why not to do a longer task in the local grocery store? Or maybe that weather is bad and it's raining outside and you just don't want to do food delivery. So there are various reasons, and I call these people like full-time gig workers because they collect full-time hours, probably even higher than full-time income per that day. But at the same time, we do have full flexibility. Tomorrow we can just skip anything if we feel like it. So that's beautiful setup.
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly relate, when you have kids. And I know a lot of people who work in like the film industry, for example, and they work on a kind of project basis, and having young kids at home, it's almost impossible to do that because you can't plan childcare around that. So actually being able to pick up specific hours would really appeal, I think, to a lot of mothers. So that makes sense. How is this different from Uber? I know that Uber got into some trouble over the years around kind of treatment of their workers and things like that. So how is Traxlo defining something that's slightly different from that?
Yeah, so I think it's fundamental difference in how we set up the demand and supply. So in our case, the people who are able to work, they have absolutely total freedom to choose what they like to do. They transparently see all the pricing of the tasks. Each tasks are as a microservice. So basically, it has a right of substitution. So if I book the task to put, I don't know, 1,000 cans of soft drink to the shelf, and I cannot do it, I can substitute myself to my friend or to whoever would like to do it. And this creates total flexibility. And we target and even like market ourselves not as like part-time opportunity or like full-time equivalent, which is probably usually if you rent a car, have a car like lease or something, and you want to utilize your car as much as possible, driving customers around the town. In our case, it's like, no, basically, here's an opportunity if you do have 2 free grocery stores in your neighborhood to earn around £400 a month extra. And then we position this extra money, we call it like important extra income, that for the lower income families, it's good money. They can pay part of the rent, they can do something meaningful with that. Or middle income families, they can just save up a little bit, 2-3 months, and they can buy a new laptop, a new iPhone, whatever the need exists for. And in that case, we don't have like this comparison to full-time opportunities or switching real employees to gig workers. It's more like, no, everyone is flexible to do what they want, how we want.
I've got a friend who, one of my old friends actually, so he had worked in a global bank from being 16, and he was made redundant after like 24 years. And that what are you going to do? And he's just like, well, I'll just do some Uber driving, like, deliver Uber Eats. And then he picked up Amazon, and then he picked up another one, and he did it for a year. And I have to say, he absolutely loved it because it was that element of freedom and choice. And it was so liberating in the sense that There was no set work patterns, no teams pinging, like, no, it didn't need to, all of those elements. It was just all, and he's kind of like midlife, mid-40s. It was just that whole choice, like total freedom of choice. And he did that, and he felt almost liberated by it. And I think that's something that about this gig economy, is that you could, it's optional for anybody to tap in as and when they need, as to when their life requires it. It's accessible, which for me, this is why it really leans into work is weird now, because that didn't exist when I was even at uni. I don't think, we did small shifts work or bar work and things like that, but there's this whole new world of work available, right?
And I assume the technology makes it really transparent in a way that you couldn't before. So when Dan was at university and was doing shift work in a bar, you obviously didn't have that like really clear exposure to what the hours would be and what the time would be. So, how is the tech actually supporting you, and where does that go from here in terms of capability in the future?
Yeah, I think like the technology improvement, starting with just mobile phones and smartphones, is key here. And overall, the other platforms like Uber or other big delivery platforms, they kind of taught already people that gig work is feasible and you could work through an app. I think the concept I work for an app is like pretty uh, common now. And just that these apps have extra functionalities. You can take pictures. We can analyze pictures as the outcome of work. You can scan barcodes with the same iPhone, when we can understand how many pieces of items you touched or you scanned or whatever. And I think it's important aspect. And the more technology-driven people are becoming, the better. Now, like we see this interesting part. So I mentioned that the key category of gig workers is up to like age 55 or something like that. But it's increasing every year. And I see it's like literally looking at it, okay, so as long as person knows how to use a smartphone and has a good eyesight, he or she can be like 80-year-old or 85-year-old. And that's amazing. And this age bracket, it just continues to grow because people are starting to understand technologies early and continue to use them. So it's a lot. And then, of course, like how the stores are being run, what data exists within the clients, that they could actually predict the demand for the labor needed, etc. So that also plays a role in all of this.
Great. And what about different? I saw that you recently you're moving into the UK more. Is that correct? How is there kind of different cultural impressions of gig workers based on where you've been working to date?
Mm, Not really. I think overall United Kingdom has more advanced gig work market. Like
Hmm.
all the big players are here, like especially United States origin ones here for many years, and we taught the markets that it's a viable job to earn money, and I think that helps overall with the adoption and understanding compared to some maybe Central European, a little bit more conservative markets. But other than that, I think the need for extra money is unanimous everywhere. And then the, the problem with the retailers, for example, having labor shortage is absolutely the same across Europe, like because of aging population and because younger generations, they don't see kind of feasible career path to work full time in a grocery store. Doesn't just sound good to them somehow.
Yeah. So you talked about going into the logistics market. Are there other sectors that you think might be potential future opportunities for this kind of thing?
So in our mind with my business partner, we see everything what you could flip to a task and pay per performance. It's good. We can try that. Just it so happens that the retail has the most intensive labor needs all across the countries, because in every country there is product, which looks the same across Europe, across United States, and also at the same time the stores and shelves are the same. So it's very repeatable. So what we do in one country, it's copy paste on our. That's easier. But other than that, yeah, you can clean streets in square meters, for example. You can cut grass in square meters. You can take care of some specific items in the garden for like specific money reward. So that exists. Just all other categories which we explored or thought about, they're just smaller than retail.
So we're essentially talking about unskilled labor here, right? So effectively, you don't need to have any experience in order to do these jobs. You just need to have obviously physical capability to do them. Are you concerned about robotics and what role that might take in some of this unskilled labor?
Mm, so we see it like from two perspectives. One, that's if and when robots take over like a lot of labor in the market, they will definitely work on task basis, not hours or something like that, because it will be clear like I need this robot to put 1,000 bottles to shelf. It's not like I need a robot for 3 hours to stay and do whatever undefined. But at that other point, like the same humans, they can change the role. So now the humans perform the task. We can then teach the robots what the task looks like. What is a nice shelf? What is a bad shelf? How do I put a product somewhere? And when the robots will start appearing in the stores, definitely at some point, maybe sooner rather than later, and then humans can be kept in the loop to kind of remote operate them or correct them at some edge cases. Again, like it can be the same task. Like, would you like to connect to this robot, which is now in this grocery store, and then support him on this edge case where the robot doesn't know what to do with this specific item? And that's again like it's just transformation of what's the most productive use of people versus some mechanical help.
Okay. Um, are you seeing more people? As I'm just sitting here thinking, wouldn't it be nice to have an extra 400 pounds like around Christmas, right? Something that I could just
Mm.
sign up for. Are you seeing more people who have, other jobs? So either, part-time roles in a kind of corporate context, also supplementing with this income, or are you mostly seeing people working just broadly across the gig economy?
I think in most cases people do have a primary workplace, unless they are unemployed or stay-at-home parent. In that case, they rely mainly on the income from the partner, and then the partner is home with kids maybe, and the other one goes to do some tasks. But other than that, statistically looking, we do have probably two distinct categories, and we categorize them literally by the time of task performance, because some tasks you can do in afternoon or during the whole day, and then in this case the population gravitates to that. They do have a primary kind of morning job or shift, and then they do task in the evening. Another one is who can work all across the day, and then these people probably don't have other commitments.
Is there anything surprising in the data in terms of the types of people who are using your platform that you didn't expect, or any trends that are happening that
That was
are,
exactly my next question as
yeah.
well. Like, what's
This,
really taking you
this
by
is very nice
surprise?
question. So when we just started, literally this women category, it's really surprised us, because we saw the need of labor in grocery stores. We had customers talk to customers, and when we started to run like onboarding campaigns, advertisements, and the first like 100 or 200 signups were like 65% women. And then we didn't understood, because I'm like, where is my taxi driver? Where is my food courier? And we started to call them. Literally, we just called like the first 100, like everyone. And so why did you say no? What's the reason? And what they told me, like I keep this like for the last 5 years with me. Basically, the answer is like absolutely the same in most cases. So my husband or my partner works as a gig worker, maybe on taxi or food delivery, but we don't have a second car at the household, or I don't feel safe delivering food in evenings or dark alleys. But I do have a grocery store. I do go family shopping there, and why not to do some tasks at the same time? And then we just stayed. And then now it's like common for us, but when we started, we literally were like surprised, like why don't we see a uh, male names in the Excel?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. I mean, I can completely relate to that thinking. I'm also wondering, and maybe I'm over romanticizing this, but I think, I quite like the idea of sort of local people supporting local infrastructure, right? Like going into a shop that serves your neighbors and your community and actually helping to facilitate that kind of, that impact on your local area. Is that something that you think people have in mind, or is it really just quite transactional?
So I think from the gig worker perspective, it's a little bit more transactional. We just literally
Hmm.
see I can get this amount of money. The distance from my home or from like any other convenient place where I am is X kilometers, for example, and we calculate it's time to go there and to do a task and the reward. From the store perspective, actually, it exists like this community feeling, and that's the desire to give back to the communities because they are anyway like a center of attraction in a sense in the neighborhood. Everyone goes throughout the week to buy groceries, and some of our clients were actually doing marketing on this like now like in this specific store you're not only able to spend money but you're able to earn some money, and if you're a community member maybe you can get extra discount by doing some tasks and then helping us out, and it creates some bond between the business and then the gig worker. I think it's nice, and at the same time business gets a little bit more loyalty, maybe a little bit more sales, and I think it even like adds to the local income opportunities that you
Mm.
don't need to actually travel somewhere across the city, burn diesel basically, to get some income, and you can just do it in your backyard.
Yeah. What what's the future of this, do you think? Like what you've obviously learned so much and it's your movie going into new cities and new countries. What does the next 5 years look like? What do you want it to look like?
So we have this notion, like from the day one, probably when we started doing this, that especially every younger person would be able to rely on us to make a relocation decision from a tiny town or smaller country to bigger country, and know that through our mobile application, he or she will be able to support him or herself while maybe starting new studies, maybe changing a career or something like that. So that's what we want to do. And to achieve that, literally, it means we have to be all across Europe, working with all the biggest retailers, that the density of income opportunity in geographic locations in the bigger towns would be sustainable to achieve this mission to provide this extra important income to the people.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that element. My business partner's son just went traveling for 3 months in South America and was talking about that age-old thing we've all done when traveling, which is try and pick up some work to keep funding us being abroad. And it's really interesting so that was the outset. That was the idea that actually people could move around. Why is that so important to you as an individual?
So originally, it's my business partner's idea. I just tend to really relate to that. To that, I think it just makes total sense. Like because again, like the effort is equal. You know that there is a demand. You have your two hands and you two legs. You can do physical labor, and you should get a reward. And how you use that for what reasons you need this income, it depends on the individual. But we do have like interesting cases in some towns where like they even share with us like I worked with you like for 3 months and now I bought my new MacBook, and with MacBook I started my social media business. And I will not
Mm.
work with you anymore because I'm no social media manager. That's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
why not?
But it's one of those, this is giving people the freedom and the choice, whatever that freedom or choice means to you, to work in whatever way you want, to drive, whatever it is, like you say, whether it's extra household income for the family, whether it's to fuel traveling, going to live in a different city, whether it's to buy that laptop to start your own business. It's that you can work in a way that will pay you for a task that enables you to be flexible and have that freedom and choice around how you work, right?
Resilience, right? So if that social
Yeah.
media manager has a slow few months, then they've got the ability to tap back into that source of
Straight
income
back
as
into
well.
it.
Absolutely, man. And I love it personally. Like, of course, like as a startup, we had ups and downs throughout the years, and sometimes I just read the reviews of our app, which are like super positive. Some are of them are very long and explicit, like in how we helped them, and I'm like, okay, so I'm happy to continue. to just support.
Great. So just another question on, because this is obviously, as I said, about kind of unskilled labor, which makes it extremely accessible, which is quite exciting for everybody because we can all kind of play a part in it. But I think, I worked for a company called Hawksby briefly during COVID, which we're actually going to interview the founders of that in a couple of weeks as well. And that is a similar kind of concept in so much as it effectively creates task-based work, but for skilled labor. So it's an agency. It's got a creative agency in part, and it had sort of an HR components as well. And basically, as a person who works on a project basis or for clients, you could tap in and you were told how much your contribution would cost. Obviously, it's a lot less clean because you have clients, you don't know what the nature of the project, how it's going to unfold. So sometimes you end up overworking, sometimes you end up underworking, and the pay doesn't come quite so cleanly associated with the task. But assuming we're going to see more of that in the kind of skilled labor market as well, it would be interesting to know from you, how does that change the motivation and the productivity picture? So how does that impact how people show up
Yeah.
to do the task?
So, I think analogy is relevant. And from purely our own data, we say that incentive alignment to get specific amount of money for something and just be able to leave the premises and go home or to any other commitment increases the speed of performance around 30%. Literally, you are here for this thing, and there are options like you just finish it as quickly as possible, so your kind of hourly equivalent just increased because of that, and you can take up the second task or third task if you want, or you can just leave. And then this is beautiful because when I'm talking about like these reviews of how how people evaluate and why they prefer to work through us, uh, very common denominator is we're like, I don't have a boss, basically. No one is above me to tell me that now, okay, so you did this quickly, please do this extra now. Why? No, literally. And they say like, I upload a picture and I know that I will get the income Thursday. That's it. That's the whole concept. And it also works with the people which are like, don't really like to communicate with a lot of other people. We just are here for this task, you take some pictures and then you leave. So yeah, incentives align, efficiency increases, full transparency between, and no subordination. That's very interesting.
So it suits certain types of personality potentially more than others in your experience?
Yeah, could be. I think everyone is able to do what we want. We have cases where people are like reporting to make friends with store employees and drinking coffee together and taking breaks together. I'm like, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Why not?
And so back to the pay aspect. So on your platform, when are people paid for the task? Is it immediately? How does that work?
So that works that we pay out every Thursday. So it's a weekly payment. Thursday is like strategic day if you need money for the weekend or something like that. Everything what you did before Thursday, 12 o'clock, you will probably get the payment immediately on Thursday based. So
I mean,
that is the thing.
nice.
I've got
nice
the
too.
best memories. So my first job, I was 16, but I did like work before this. Used to do like work at like a local horse riding thing when I was under 16. Probably shouldn't say that. Definitely illegal. I did. I worked at McDonald's from 16, and we used to get paid every 2 weeks on a Thursday. But we used to go out like on a Thursday night. Like that was the night that everybody went out between the ages of like 16 and 18 because it was obviously cheap as chips, and dancing. But like I don't know, I've just always got the fondest memories. And whenever I speak to anybody that I work to at that job, like we always just say, how good was it getting paid on a Thursday every 2 weeks? Like you didn't have to wait that long, and you just all your shifts were clocked in and everything. It was great. Bring back bi-weekly Thursday paydays, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I mean, this is really, really interesting. I'm wondering just one more question about what the impact this will have on organizations and how they should be thinking about labor and pay moving forward. Because I think we can all agree that we're going to be seeing a lot more of this at the sort of unskilled and skilled ends of the labor market. And so, how should organizations be tackling this? What should be in their minds about what might come next for employment?
Yeah, So definitely there is a need for mindset change or overall to review some policies. And with flexibility, if applied correctly, it allows a lot of side benefits on how to do the planning, how to prepare for peak times, how to not overwork your own staff, how not to overdo on overtime, etc. So, but it requires the mindset change. And the thing is across departments, because each department, we have old ways of doing that, especially in retail for maybe last 30 years, not much changed. And then we need to see, okay, so here's the flexibility component. We can utilize it in that regard. There are side benefits, but what needs to change in some other processes? And so, quite some needs to change. Like you need to do the planning a little bit better. Maybe you need to do some uh, data integration to see where and when is the specific need for that and account for all these things. But in the end, you get agility throughout the organization to do some other things. And what we also see our customers doing when we give these basic tasks to gig workers. So basic tasks, like if you repeat that throughout the year, it's maybe not so interesting or it gets repetitive and boring if you work full time. But if you are a gig worker and you do just 1 or 2 tasks per day, so you don't get this repetitiveness boredom. That's one thing. And then the real staff who could be maybe paid a little bit higher, trained a little bit better to give better customer support, it creates extra benefits for the organization. So basically, you have your own staff who knows everything about your store, who treat the customer at the maximum quality, and then you have a gig worker who's like, okay, so I'm here to do this thing. I will do it on my own terms. I'll get the very fair payment for specific output, and we leave the premise. So I think
It's
it's
almost it's almost challenging the organization to think. They potentially think right now the gig economy is something that's separate from what we do here, but actually there are opportunities of integrating that into their own
yeah, and we
structure.
have examples where people come to us with specific requests. They're like, so especially maybe not specifically from grocery or some, or unless they do have a lot of sectors where they sell maybe electronics or something like that. So they want to teach the people who could communicate with customers about the features of the items, talk to them, do the customer support, but not at the same time to actually be carrying the television somewhere across the aisle. And it makes total sense in my mind. And I think sooner or later robots will take over that, and that's just a natural progression of everything.
Can I ask you about your career pre Traxlo? Have you had like a personal gig economy or portfolio type career yourself?
Mm, Not really. Uh, on the gig work side, before Traxlo, I worked with artificial intelligence in retail setting. So mainly with camera technology and computer vision. So we analyzed everything what's possible to analyze basically from camera feeds. So it is customers, products, aisles, flows of people, what they take from the shelves, etc. And out of that, that's how the whole idea came to be. That with cameras and maybe Amazon Go type of the stores where cashiers are not needed or replaced by artificial intelligence, there is still a huge need for labor to put stuff to shelf. And there was very little innovation in that field, and still is not much. That, okay, so how do these items appear on the shelf? Who does that? Can robots do it now? When they will be able to do it now? Oh, but we have customers who have smartphones, and these people with smartphones could get paid per task. And that's a very good motivation loop. You pay for what needs to be done. You make sure that it's done via picture analysis from the smartphone, and that's it. Anyone can become a gig worker. So that's how it happened actually throughout the last 10 years of my career.
Great. Very cool. Really interesting. Thanks so much, Paul. What if people wanted to find out more about Traxlo or about you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so our website or LinkedIn, feel free to message me.